Taxi!
Where to, mate?
Hello, mate. 55 Tufton Street, please.
55 Tufton Street, SW1. Yep, I know it well. Hop in, sir. This is A Nation of Taxpayers, a weekly podcast from the Taxpayers Alliance.
Is a graduate premium a myth? Is the debt incurred in going to university, and we're talking about 50 to 60 grand's worth in some cases, is it worth it? And how bloated is the higher education sector? Some of the questions we'll chew over on this week's episode of A Nation of Taxpayers. Hello once again, I'm Duncan Barkes, I'm your host. Alongside me from the Taxpayers Alliance is the TPA's Investigations Campaign Manager, Joanna Marchong. Welcome.
Thank you, Duncan, for having me.
And good to see you. This is your first proper full-blown appearance on the podcast.
Yes.
Because you took part in the past, didn't you? Was it the quiz?
No, not the quiz. It was the very first episode for this year, just going over past investigations and stories.
But you're probably going to have a bigger starring role in this particular week. So it's great to see you. Thank you. And we welcome into the TPA studio Paul Wiltshire, education campaigner and author of Why is the Average Graduate Premium Falling? I've got that right, haven't I?
You have, yes.
Welcome, Paul. How are you?
Not too bad, thank you.
Brilliant. And thank you for joining us here in London, because you're not a London-based chap, so we appreciate you making the journey in.
Yeah, quite a long journey from Cornwall, yes.
A long journey. Did the trains work?
Very well, thank you.
Excellent, good stuff. Ton of stuff to talk about here, and what I'm really interested in is the dynamic of the three of us, because Paul, you do a lot of research. You've written pieces in the Telegraph in the past. You've got a new bit of research coming out later this week, which we'll talk about as well. So that's your area of interest. Joanna, you're, well, compared to me, you're very young, and somewhat. Well, when did you leave uni?
Well, I left university 2 years ago now, or coming up to 2 years, and my first job was the TPA, so very recent it seems like.
So you've got some very recent experience of the educational system, and then there's me who never went to university. I ended up working at radio stations and newspapers and just got the experience. So I never had the uni experience, but I do have a daughter who's 21, who's currently, will start her second year. And of course, I'm fully aware of the figures involved. So I think we've got a very interesting kind of dynamic here. But Paul, first off, I mean, your interest in this area to begin with, what sparked it?
During COVID and post-COVID, as we know, the universities stopped letting people into lecture halls, the country was closed down. My son was at King's College London, that was his first year. He worked very hard to get there, he did retakes in order to achieve it. He was absolutely gutted that his first year was spent stuck in his halls. We got him through that first year, along with the other students. But I said him, don't worry, it won't last forever. Next year's going to be fine, okay? The restrictions all got lifted by the government in June 21, I believe. In July, on July 3rd, I think it was, 21, he got a letter from King's College London saying, welcome back to university next year, but some of your large lectures are going to remain online just as a caution.
Right.
Okay. Now, I said, well, it might not be large lecture, it might not be future, it might not be first term. He looked into it. It turns out when King's College London said large lectures, they meant lectures.
Right.
Yeah.
All of them.
All of them.
Yeah.
Okay. And his first term was spent with no lectures whatsoever. My second son, who was about to start at Bristol, got the same letter 2 weeks later. Right. And they also said large lectures as well, and it turned out to be all lectures. And I was annoyed. I was livid, to tell you the truth. And I knew within seconds of reading that memo that it wasn't temporary at all.
Right.
It was an attempt to move to different business model that was cheaper for them, and they successfully done that.
So our listener is clear. Those lectures that normally you would expect to be delivered in person, which didn't obviously happen during COVID, they became virtual lectures, if I've understood it correctly. But then once the restrictions were lifted, they carried on being virtual, and yet you're still stumping out the same amount of cash.
Yes.
You've got experience of this, haven't you?
Yeah, so my first year going into university, I was at Durham, and it was all online. It was full-blown COVID when it just started, so you had the households, couldn't go out, couldn't socialise. You would only be limited to the 6 people you were sharing a flat with. Even then, people were really cautious. And we still had fun. It's uni, you're away from home, so it was okay. Second year, still kind of iffy. Lectures online mostly. I think I had one in my first year that wasn't, but it was a very small, there were less than 10 people in the lecture. And then second year, mostly online. And then third year, still a lot of them online, But we also had the strikes. So we had the 5-month marking assessment boycott. And that basically sums up my university experience, where no singular year was normal.
Yeah. Did you feel shortchanged?
I did, but I think because I was so young and naive, and I was just like, I also believed in, now we're saying it's a myth, that you go to university, you do any degree, you will get a job. And come my third year, I remember having increasing anxiety, just thinking, gosh, I need something on my CV. I need to know what kind of things I have to apply for. You know, I was looking at grad schemes at the time, and that was really stressful, because the idea that actually I might not be able to get a job was at the forefront of my mind.
We'll go back. We'll go back to what it's like when you leave university looking for a job a little bit later on. But let's just continue looking at where we find ourselves today. You've explained brilliantly, Paul, why you started to get interested in this area. Did you challenge it on behalf of your son? Did you try and make some noise? What happened?
Yeah, my son, bless him, he started his own campaign called KCL Keep It Real.
Right.
Okay, and that lasted for a term or two. And he got some success. He got lots of students behind him and got some press stories as well. Mm-hmm. But I, really inspired by him, or jointly inspired, I suppose, I then started my own campaign. And I decided to research into all the other 145 universities to see what they were doing. Okay, I looked at their websites. I published my first bit of research, came out in Sunday Times in the first term that year, and it turned out that 83% of them weren't going back to full in person.
Wow. And did you approach any of them and say, why are you doing this?
Not them,
right?
But it was. I did go via MPs and got press stories, and on their websites, they justify it by saying it's a bit of caution, that they also call it inclusive, but I'm not quite sure why it's inclusive to make people stay at home in their bedrooms. But that's the word they'll use. Yeah. But I ended up doing that 4 times in the first year, and it didn't get any better because that they were. What actually happened by the end of the first year, they weren't saying anything on the websites anymore about what they were doing about online teaching. I couldn't find out anymore.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Do you think, I mean, bear with me, I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent here. If you remember when we had 9/11, that really hit the air industry, and the airlines used it as an opportunity to get rid of various flights that weren't making them money.
Oh, yeah.
And I've always felt that that's an interesting lesson to learn about even something that's horrific or a disaster. If you're in business, and these universities are businesses, aren't they? You can turn something to your advantage. And I mention it because I wonder with COVID whether or not this was something that the universities were actually waiting for, an opportunity to go, do you know what we can do here? We can stick everything online and save a packet. Is that a fair comment?
No, absolutely. Yeah. The sad thing also, though, at the end of the first year, and my son found it on his campaign as well, is that the students themselves were getting quite used to staying in bed all day. Yeah, right. And they kind of liked laying in bed all day and watching the lectures when it suited them, as opposed to the rigid 9 o'clock, 3 o'clock sort of Monday, Thursday or whatever. Yeah. So therefore, unfortunately, the universities very quickly managed to corrupt the students into quite liking it.
Do you think, I mean, how far would you go? Do you think as a result of that, and you're right, because, you know, you get used to a particular lifestyle, you're lying in bed watching your lectures if you can be bothered to switch on the laptop or whatever. Has that led to where we find ourselves now with some of these reports we increasingly hear on the radio, on the telly or in the newspapers about the worklessness that exists in this country today, particularly with young men? Do we think there's some kind of connection with how that happened at university, or what happened at university during COVID, and people actually not having a routine, not getting used to working? Or am I just over-egging the pudding?
No, I think you are correct, because if you look at it even further back, before admittance into uni, if you were around that time, so my kind of cohort, I was studying IB, which is a substitute for A-levels. So I didn't have to write my exams in A-levels, got into university, free money with the student loan because it's a graduate tax rather than an actual loan. So you have that. You used to have to actually like show up, have attendance records to go to lectures. everything moved online. Nobody's checking anything. And I remember so many times where, if it didn't work with my schedule, that's fine, I'll watch it another time. Or I know the exams are coming up, so I'll watch it then. Or that's just a regular thing that happens now. And even if you want to look outside of education, and Paul, when you were talking about people get used to it, people get comfortable, you can see the same thing paralleled with actual adults.
Yes.
So like work from home. Nobody wants to come back into the office. You're thinking about costs. You're thinking about how efficient it is to kind of do things on your own time. And that is a major shift, but it really doesn't... It's fine thinking about it as a private business, but when you think about, I don't know, taxpayers paying for it and the state of the public purse, facilitating all these university graduates that some aren't really suited to be in university, doing that, I mean, it's billions of pounds.
That's really interesting. Let's talk about the graduate premium. What, in your view, is the current state of play? Is it worth it? Is there a premium anymore?
I believe that it's definitely worth it for 10% of the people.
Okay.
All right. It's probably worth it for a further 15%, but that's nothing to do with the degree itself.
Right.
It's to do with the fact that it's an entry ticket.
Okay.
Because you won't be able to get a job without one, even though actually doing the degree itself doesn't make you any better at the job.
When we talk about the universities and their role in this, and we've kind of agreed that the reason they want to stick to all these, they put stuff online after COVID, or continued with it after COVID, was to save cash. Do you think they're, in their current form, they're quite disingenuous with the value of certain degrees when they're talking to prospective students?
Well, yeah, we're all sold a general myth that university is the route to riches. Bridget Phillipson, just the other day in the Telegraph, I think yesterday or the day before, said that if you're 18 and you don't go to university, you're a write-off.
Yeah, no, I saw that.
Yeah.
I was quite offended, actually, because it hit me personally. Yeah. But also, I remember when I left college after doing my A-levels, and I went and temped for a bit because I wanted to work in the media, and I was getting some work experience in newspapers and stuff, and that worked for me. But there was certainly towards, I'm just trying to think timing-wise, so it would have been the Conservative government under John Major. And there was a little bit of a push towards, well, you should be thinking about university. But I really noticed it ratcheted up under Tony Blair.
Oh, definitely.
Blair administration is almost like, you have to go to university. And if you don't, there's something wrong with you. And, I think Bridget Phillipson is quite Blairite as a Labour politician in many ways. So it's not surprising to hear her or see her say that or read about it in the newspaper. Why don't we challenge it more, do you think?
It becomes a bit of a vicious doom spiral. Because the more politicians and our whole society talks about going to university as if that's a good thing to validate yourself, the more people want to go. And the more people want to go, the more employers restrict their recruitment only to graduates. And with it being really easy these days to get into university, it's incredibly easy to get a student loan. Universities want to take their business that they will take no matter what your grades are almost. They will do their best to. And it's just an easy way of spending 3 years being told that it's the route to success by everybody around you. Other people who go think it's really good fun. So there's not a lot of downside. Until maybe you come out the other end and you realise there's actually not a job for you. Or the job itself might be not much above minimum wage.
Going back to your son, does he regret going to university, or was it integral for him to do it to end up doing what he's doing now? Absolutely
not, because he had a really good time. It's hard work doing your studying, but it's also good fun being away from home, and it's like a holiday camp for kids, isn't it? Let's face it.
It's the uni experience, isn't it?
Precisely. So he enjoyed that bit, apart from the first year with COVID. But he's now he's trying to do a professional career, so it's a prerequisite. You've got to have a degree for that. So, and the thought of actually having to payments back on his student loan is still a distant thought in his head. Because people don't really work out that, hold on a minute, I might still be paying £3,000 a year when I'm 57.
Yeah. Let's get your perspective on this. But first off, though, Joanna, were you under pressure to go to university? And I don't necessarily mean by your folks, but maybe from the educational world?
No, I definitely think there was a bit of pressure. Nearly everyone I knew in school ended up taking the university route. I had a personal experience where my sister came out of university and she did an apprenticeship in insurance. And that's worked out fantastic for her because she never really liked the idea of academia and going into higher education. And I think if more people were able to be honest with themselves and make that call, you would get better workers and younger people with, a better chance at really getting jobs. I think we don't talk about what happens after university because it's worrying to not know the state at which the economy is going to be in. I mean, if I knew what I knew then, with 630,000 graduates on universal credit at the moment,
right.
You have an oversaturated higher education skills market that businesses can't actually keep up with. You have graduate jobs going down, graduate job postings going down by about 33% in this last year. And they're saying it's a shift in AI. They're getting AI to do kind of graduate grunt work for them instead. And they're also claiming that Rachel Reeves, the employer's national insurance tax going up, businesses don't have the money to employ people. So there's a bigger issue as well where graduates with very minimal experiences and work experience are actually going up against people who have experience and maybe lost their jobs, maybe competing for the same roles. All those things, when I say them out loud now, I'm quite worried and I'm just one of the lucky ones. But there are so many of my friends out of university with better grades than mine, going traveling for a year, being rejected from another grad scheme. So we don't put that on the table because it's one less thing that the government has to kind of deal with, where young people have always been a bit of a problem and you never know what the right call to make is. But they're just funneling them through universities and saying, okay, we'll deal with them later. And the later is over 600,000 of them are on universal credit.
And just a life question for a second. Did you feel that, and you don't have to answer any of these questions, by the way, but did you feel that I just want to have the university experience away from the education side, the idea of being away from home, meeting some new people, maybe getting drunk or whatever continually? Did you feel that you wanted to have that experience?
Well, I grew up in London, so I had a degree of being away from my parents and, drinking when I want and doing things freely. But I remember by the time I was going to university, my parents, I stayed home for a bit, but they were like, you've got to get out. You have to do things on your own. So there is that skill set that, I'm less dependent. I can wash my own clothes. I can handle my own budget, do kind of like normal people stuff. And it's a soft easing into the world of work and just like an adult world. With other young adults figuring it out as well and like being able to make those connections and build a network of people rather than staying in your hometown. Again, I was really lucky because I was in London. But I remember when I was thinking or having those conversations about staying at home because everything was online, my parents were like, you've got to get out now. Right. We don't want you. This is going to be good for you. Bye-bye. And
this is quite a personal question. As someone who is a bit... certainly a middle-aged man, I was going to say an old man, but a middle-aged man, and someone whose values are very much set in what I would call conservatism. I can't think of anything more horrific of starting my working life at the age of 21, 22 with 40, 50, 60 grand's worth of debt. It's not the way I'm programmed. It's not the way I was brought up. How does that make you feel?
This is an interesting topic because the student loan isn't a loan in true sense. It is a graduate tax. It's a graduate premium tax. And I think a lot of students will know that, one, you don't have to pay it back, and two, it's just a bit off of your wage every month. It's small amounts. You're never going to see the $3,000 at the end of the year, so it's just small amount, like paying tax, really. But you just know it doesn't affect your ability to buy a home or your general credit score. I mean, looking at data, the government is getting an awful return on their investment here, because so every year, or as of last year, the student loans equaled about 21 billion, and that was loaned to 1.5 million students. For 2024-25, the government only expected 56% of those students to pay it back in full. And that's an improvement on the years before, because in 2022-23, they only 32% paid it back in full. So
yeah,
all right.
That's why they keep on reforming structure.
I'll have to pick you up on that.
Oh, yeah.
Right? If you listen to certain people, there's one very prominent one, I won't name him, there's a talk about, it's just a graduate contribution, okay? It isn't. It's an absolute loan. It's an absolute albatross around the neck, ball chain around the leg loan that will dog people for 40 years. Okay, and all of this sort of talk about, it's only a little bit of tax coming off my pay slip. It may feel like that when you first start out.
Yeah.
But if you are someone of, say, the 44% who doesn't pay it back in full, if you ever dare to earn more than £25,000 a year, you've got an extra 9% tax to pay. Now, we have talk about Rachel Reeves might raise income tax by 1 or 2% or something, and it's a catastrophe for the country. We don't care at all that half the population has got to pay an extra 9% tax for 40 years. The fiscal drag factor of that, it must be absolutely enormous. And also, when you are 42, 45, 57, and you are still paying this extra 9% tax for a degree that didn't do you any good whatsoever, and you've never ever used it in the job that you did, then you kind of think, you know what, I'm not quite sure that was a good idea.
But we can agree that the taxpayers aren't getting value for money,
No,
and the graduates aren't getting value for money. And I think that's the 2 points worth making. Why do we put up with it, Paul?
Because we've just got stuck into this loop, this loop that, because universities are selling education, okay? It takes a very brave politician to stand up in the House of Parliament and say, what we need is less education, all right? So therefore, it's such a difficult thing to sell that the universities can keep selling this education product as much as they want, and we'll keep buying it.
Would you go back to a grant system?
I would go back to a system of about 25, 30 years ago. Okay. That does kind of coincide when I went to university. When it was maybe 15% went to university and it was free. Yeah. The fees were free and you got grant. It was
free to the user, but ultimately funded by the taxpayer.
But a means-tested grant for maintenance, and I got full grant. Okay, but that would be far, far cheaper. Paying that for the government now than all this loan write-offs, and you wouldn't end up with. We send about 500,000 UK people to university each year. My research says probably about 200,000 of those are going to get the debt without any improvement in their pay. Right. Compared to if they hadn't gone. Yeah. So that's 200,000 people a year who are going to get this 40-year-long payments for something that gave them no benefit whatsoever, yet we just keep doing it. Yeah. But
you're right. There's no political will to change it, is there?
No. I had a breakthrough this year that the actual official graduate labour market statistics the government's putting out, I managed to discredit those, and they've been withdrawn. There'll be new statistics coming out next year that break it down by prior academic attainment, and that's getting a bit technical. But what that will then mean is, if you're someone who got, say, 3 Cs, it will compare the pay that you got if you went to university compared to the population who got 3 Cs who didn't go to university. So you then can see more of a genuine difference there. At the moment, all you see is over average, okay? And my research, again, on scenario-based analysis, shows that anything less than sort of like maybe Bs and Cs, there's no premium whatsoever.
Understood.
Right? And when that data comes out, it might finally wake us up.
Look forward to seeing that. I keep reading about the government white paper that I think is due out in the next few months regarding post-16-year-old education. Is that right?
Yes.
Do we know what might be in there? Or what would you like to see in there? Maybe that's a better question.
I don't know what's in there, I have to say.
But what should be in there?
What should be in there is a drastic cut in student numbers. We should cap it to 25% because it's madness to keep sending people away to get in debt for no use.
Talking about student loan debt, I have some numbers on it. So as of March 2025, student loan debt was at £267 billion. And that's a lower number because the government forecasts it to reach about £500 billion by the late 2040s.
Wow.
2040s, yeah.
And you can guarantee that whatever they estimate it will be double that.
Yeah.
It'll be far
Yeah.
worse. Okay. So it's horrendous, the debt we're building up for what is doing sort of at least half the people, well, around half the people, no good whatsoever.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier some research that you've been doing. There's stuff coming out later this week.
Yes.
Let's just put some meat on the bones. Can you give us a sense of what people can expect?
Yeah. I researched into the graduate job market and particularly the graduate-only jobs.
Yeah.
Because I was concerned, two of my children had just emerged from university. One of them has been okay and got a job. The other one hasn't. He's had a year of not being able to get a job and done the thing that we hear about all the time now, 100 job applications, no job. One job that he went to was a trainee estate agent, okay?
Right.
I thought, it's not a graduate job, but it's called a graduate job, okay? Yeah. In the interview, the interviewer told him, yeah, it's not a graduate job, we just did that for the clicks. Okay?
Oh.
That was the phrase that was used.
Right.
So that sparked my interest, okay? And what it turns out is that we have created the sort of the middle ground of graduate. If you're not in the sort of the top academic ability, the middling sort of academic ability that now all go to university previously wouldn't have done, they would have done jobs like trainee estate agent or whatever. Okay, they would have done those jobs. But now they've all got degrees. So the people who are suitable for those jobs have got degrees. So the estate agency has to advertise it as a graduate job to get the clicks.
Right.
All right. But that also has the effect of making everybody have to go to university in order to be sort of considered for a job that's actually a pretend graduate job.
It's almost like a cartel, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous.
And if I can ask a personal question about, did you say you had two sons?
I've got three.
But the one who spent a year trying to get a job and not being able to get it, how does he feel about that?
He is frustrated and concerned. It's difficult to get him to speak, like a lot of young people. But yes, he still hasn't got the job that he wants to get, he really. It's what we're doing here. We're actually disillusioning a whole generation, or sort of like. All future generations of people, but by society selling them this this notion that by going to university everything's going to be fine, and it absolutely isn't. So right from the get-go, halls of young children are disillusioned with society in general.
And not just that, and you might have seen this with some of your pals, Joanna, because you said, they've gone travelling because they can't get a job. It must damage your confidence as well. I would have thought if you're going for job after job after job, and there's so many people going for it, and you're thinking, well, I've got a reasonably good degree here. Let's put the debt to one side. Let's work on the basis that it was worth it. It still must dent your confidence to keep getting those knockbacks when you probably feel I've done everything possible that I can do to give it my best shot.
I vividly remember when we had all just left university, and there were so many of us that we're going to use the next year to kind of figure it out, get on to the next round of grad schemes or like find another job, have an idea of what our interests were. And so many of my friends, like I have this one case where really close friend of mine, she is unbelievably smart. She was getting firsts in all the essays. She did really, really well, finished with like 84 on her dissertation. So she was unbelievably smart. And we were going up for the same grad roles, and she just had no luck, and she wanted a job in finance, and she was more than capable of it, and just being hit with absolutely nothing. I have other friends that very much went through the same process, putting out 500 applications, and every time they got rejected from maybe 10 in a week, they would apply to another 10. So you have people that are high achieving and are motivated and putting in the effort to do every application, to dedicate every single moment, and it not really coming up with anything. the friends that I had, they were saying, "Oh, we've got to put like LinkedIn Gold just to see and do that way and connect with people." So you have to think out of the box now.
Yeah.
If you want something, an Indeed application isn't going to get you anywhere, as you could know. But I still have a few friends that are in areas or in jobs that they don't really love, like they wouldn't have seen themselves working in, but they're making it do, and they're kind of hoping to switch at some point or just keep an eye on opportunities.
Any final thoughts on what we've been talking about this week?
Gosh, well, I think it's a really hard topic, and I feel quite naive because obviously I've done the thing where I've gone to university, I had debt, and I've got a job, so I'm a lucky case, and I'm happy. But what I think is the main issue is that in the education sector, there are so many areas that need reform. As we've said, and Paul, as you said, universities are a business, and they also have no skin in the game because the taxpayers are funding students to go, so they will have a very lucrative revenue stream. They have nothing to worry about, and regardless of graduate outcomes, they will still get paid and they will still have funding. So there is a lot to talk about in terms of also the effect of COVID, the fact that state and state primary schools and high schools just aren't performing as we would have wanted them to. A-level results are coming out on Thursday, and they're saying grades might be again inflated to deal with the 2 inflated grades that came out during COVID. So it's a slow, it's a long process, and I think all these topics need talking about, and we've got to think of the education sector as a whole.
Your final thoughts?
Somehow we've got to change society back into the notion that if you go to work 18, you're a success and you're a hard-working taxpayer. You're not some sort of write-off. You're not a failure. And you can start any job at 18, and if you work hard, then you can rise up and do well. You absolutely do not need to spend another 3 years in education.
No, and it's good of you to make that point, and I feel it a little bit because I had mates who went off to uni to do various media-related things, and there was me working odd shifts at radio stations at the weekend to get my experience. And when they came out of uni after 3 years looking for a job, I was doing the job because, I was lucky enough to get, I suppose, if you call it on-the-job training, but certainly you get some experience doing it, working at 3:00 on a Sunday morning, editing bits of tape, etc., etc. And they were coming out of uni after 3 years, applying for those very jobs, almost starting at the bottom of the media ladder.
But the employer wouldn't let you in anymore.
No.
They wouldn't let you in anymore.
So they're equally complicit, aren't they?
They barred entry to 18-year-olds. You've got to be a 21-year-old graduate now. And it's discriminatory. And I actually think it's against the law.
It's been a fascinating conversation. We look forward to seeing your new bit of research. If people want to get hold of you, Paul, or read more about what you put together and what you find, what's the best way?
I have a website. It's called University Watch. So it's universitywatch.org.
Yep. And people can email you there?
They can, yeah.
You're happy to hear from people?
I certainly am.
Marvellous. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for coming in. Paul Wiltshire, thank you. Joanna Marchong, thank you. And thank you for listening this week. You can listen to loads more episodes we've done over almost 11 months now by just going back through our archive on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Loads of fascinating guests talking about a variety of issues. And if you'd like to email us and get in contact, the email address is podcast@taxpayersalliance.com.